So this is Coddy,
Hi,
comes highly recommended by Jackie.
JP, the girl from Salford.
Yeah.
Known her for a long time, since probably 14, 15.
So I saw and you put a comment under, Jackie did a Facebook post about the video.
Yeah.
And then you put a comment underneath. And then Jackie said, like, you were there from day one. And she's known you right from hanging about in the Arndale from...
Yeah, we used to, I don't know if it was the Arndale or Eccles, because we used to go down to Eccles as teenagers when we were like 14, 15, and go down to the silver screen.
Yeah.
And there was a school called Winton High, and they had a youth club, and we used to go there.
Yeah, I used to
You
go.
know, so I think it was from them sort of days, and then it went to the Arndale, hanging out in the Arndale on a Saturday afternoon. I think we just call it loafing around. So yeah, it was good times.
You were just telling me just before we started about the Reno club out and you started.
Yeah. Oh my God. We used to go to, we were so young. We would go to the Tropicana. It was like this nightclub on Oxford Road.
Yeah.
And we'd go there, and it was our first club experience. And it was all chart music, but there was loads of girls in there.
Yeah.
So that's where we went. And after there, we used to just jump on a night bus and go back to Moss Side and go into the Reno. Or sometimes we didn't even go out. My mates would throw stones from my window at like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Right. And I'd climb down out the window, jump down off the shed, go down the road, go into the Reno. The weird thing is, back in those days, my dad used to go in the Nile.
Yeah.
So I had to make sure my dad wasn't outside, right? To make, because you wouldn't have been happy me going in the Reno, like at 15, 16.
Yeah.
So we used to go in the Reno. It was good. Tomlin, the DJ, used to play some killer tracks.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It was just...
it funk and soul, was it?
When we went there, it was like, you know what I mean? Tomlin's spot was all R&B, basically.
Yeah.
So that was just amazing. Jazz, R&B sort of vibe. There was a glass collector in there. An old guy with a beard. And he used to sell these little £2 wraps of weed.
Yeah.
We used to buy a little wrap off him, go to the bar, get our drinks. And at the time, I wasn't really a big weed smoker.
Yeah.
And if you'd been out to the Tropicana, had a few drinks in there, and then come in there, had a couple of drinks, then had a spliff, through the biggest whitey.
Yeah.
I'd be like going, my night's over, so I'd end up going home. But I soon got used to it. And we used to like party in there till like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And then again, leave there, send one of my mates upstairs, make sure my dad wasn't around, and then go across Princess Road, back onto the estate, back up onto the shed, in the window, boom. So yeah, it was good times, really good times.
That's legendary, in the Reno.
Yeah.
I was trying to think whether I've met you before. I probably met you at Winton Youth Club, but Marvin took me to a kitchen party once in Hulme.
Yes.
Was you like a face of kitchen party?
Yes. Well, kitchens was my mate Martin.
Martin Muldoon.
Martin Muldoon, yeah. Kevin and a couple of others basically set that up. That was on Epping Walk.
Oh, did you set it up?
No, well, I was one of them because like Martin was we were like brothers, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Martin was really close. So Martin would set it up. I'd go and help them, do you know what I mean? And things like that. And we knocked down like a couple of flats because at that time it was quite abandoned basically. So it was getting ready for demolition. So we'd hotwire the electrics, bloody knock down a couple of walls into the flat next door, have this great big open space. It was a bit of a copy of the kitchens.
Yeah.
But after the kitchens had finished by then. Yeah. Basically. So yeah, it was good. We had some really good parties in there, charging the people a couple of quid to get in. We'd get all the beers in, stack them all up. Good times again.
Well, yeah, I remember now, because I don't think what he took me to was the kitchens, but it was like, I think it was near McEwen's Lager.
Yeah. So McEwen's Lager would be sort of like 200-300 meters that way. But then there was Salmon Taxis, which was just on the road in front of us, basically. Yeah. And Epping Walk was just there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the spot. It was good. We were always trying to make money. Yeah. Always trying to make extra money. So anything we could do to bring up extra cash in, that's what we did. So
yeah.
you know, trying to be little entrepreneurs.
When did you get into house music?
Oh, geez. It was Martin. Martin, we used to go to the gallery.
Yeah.
And
I'm
do the
related to the
R&B
video
thing.
today on
Yeah.
the gallery.
And Martin was like, we need to go to this house club at Hacienda. And I was like, I'm sure I've been there before. And I was speaking to some people and went, yeah. He said, we went there to watch Madonna. So I used to know a couple of Salford heads and from going to Salford. And they took us down there because I was like probably 16 at the time. And we went to watch Madonna.
Oh, did you go to that?
Yeah, it was around Christmas or January.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Gosh, 86, something like that.
Yeah.
And but Martin said Hacienda, and I didn't know it was a house club.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what house music was.
Yeah.
And so me, Kiam, and Leon went in the Hacienda. I met Martin in there.
Yeah.
And Martin was in the first cubicle, just spaced out. And we looked at him, and this banging music, and we were like going, okay, it was quite alien to us at the time.
Yeah.
You know, but I loved the music.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was Kiam and Leon's sort of thing. So they didn't come again. But then it was like me, Martin, George, who started going there from Moss Side and Hulme. And then from there, it was just an explosion of people.
Yeah.
You know, we got to know all the faces in there. And because you're going there every Friday and every Saturday, you know, you get your little community. You know, there were queues outside going, you know, 100 meters one way, and then the guest list was 50 meters the other way. But because we knew we were there every week, half the time we didn't even have to queue up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Especially when Roger was on the door.
Yeah.
Because Roger had the door first before Salford had it.
Yeah.
And Roger was from Cheetham Mill.
Yeah.
Big black guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, he could, you know, if he got on the wrong side of Roger, you knew about it, you know what I mean? But Roger was cool. Me and Roger were there cool.
Yeah.
And he was the nicest guy. Do you know what I mean? And he ran the club. You know, the door was, you know, there was no attitude. The doormen were cool. You wouldn't mess with them, but they were cool.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And the vibe in the place was just amazing. They were the best times. Roger, and then the first year when the Noonans took over, they were the best years.
Yeah.
And then about 12 months after the Noonans took over the door, it went downhill because it's like it became gangsters at us.
Yeah.
You know, too many faces, attitude. And I think that the vibe changed because in the beginning, everyone was on ease, you know. And I remember the first time someone gave me an E, and I was like,
what year was that?
Oh, Jesus. It was I've probably been going there a few years, right? And I was
I was as well. I left it because I was into the music, but I left it. I was a bit scared of it, to be honest. But
yeah. Because I didn't know, because I was just used to smoking a little bit of weed every now and again, you know, and this tablet thing, these Mitsubishis and Doves and, you know, all these other things, that were all the other names they had. And I was like, I'm not too sure about this, but like a lot of my friends were on them and they were like loving it and saying, you're just normal, you're just dead happy and just feel the beat.
Yeah.
So anyway, my friend, she gave me like a quarter or half. She went, just try this. You know what I mean? I think she gave me a quarter. And then about half an hour later, she gave me another quarter. And then I was like, and I was dancing. And I was just dancing just there. And she went, hi. I went, I'm not even feeling this, you know. She went, are you sure? Because your body's telling me something else.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, what? She went, you just can't stop dancing right now. And I was like, oh, is that what it does? So yeah, I remember being in the Hacienda and someone gave me this amazing like Mitsubishi, and we were just so happy, you know, just everyone was smiling, everyone was just buzzing. Went to the bar, but literally about 12 people a drink.
Yeah.
Didn't know them. I'll buy you a drink. Yeah, I'll get them as well. You know, so it was like one of those, you know, I came back and I had this like bill, like, I can't remember how much it was, but it was a lot more than I usually spend in the bar on a whole night. Yeah. You know, because I wasn't a big drinker either, so.
Do you know, listening to you now, I was thinking that, isn't it mad how you were saying it made you want to buy strangers drinks?
Yeah.
Isn't it mad how something that was so loved up and beautiful at the start would just become full of gangsters and it become a dangerous place?
Well, it's one of those things where in the beginning, house music wasn't it was an underground thing,
Yeah.
you know. So even though the Hacienda was a massive club for its time, you know, it was still very underground, and it was a core of people. And a lot of people tried to get in and couldn't get in.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you had to be a regular.
Yeah.
Right. So they'd always let the regulars in first, and then when all the regulars were in, you know, then they start letting other people in and things like that. I mean, the amount of people that were in that queue that got turned away, who would get there early trying to get in and go, nope, you're not coming in. Why?
Yeah.
Whatever reason, you weren't getting in.
Yeah.
You know, it was quite, you know, exclusive in that regard to the people who gave it the vibe.
Yeah.
You know, and then after that lot were done, then others would be let in. But yeah, it was a beautiful, beautiful club, and the vibe was amazing. What changed it really was the coke scene.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I've never really been into coke, so I was never really into pills like that, but it was an every now and again thing for me. But when you did have them, you know, they were amazing because you didn't take them all the time.
Yeah.
You know, but when the coke scene kicked off, it was like just pure attitude.
Yeah.
You know, and people get angry on cocaine, you know, and it's and it was a different element. So after a while, it got super, super famous, right? And you had people coming from all over the UK trying to get in there, right? And one weekend you had like Sylvester Stallone was in there.
Did Sylvester Stallone go in?
Sylvester Stallone and Bridget Nielsen. He was seeing Bridget Nielsen, and them two were in there one night with Mick Hucknall. I think it was with Mick Hucknall at the time. Could be wrong, but I'm sure Mick was in there right at the same time. So so yeah, I mean, there was like proper Hollywood people in there, you know, actors and people that you'll see on TV now were all in there, things like that. So yeah, it was super popular, but it turned dark. It got super famous, like I said, and then all of a sudden, you know, like I say, the Noonans took over the door. It kept its happy vibe for a while. But then, you know, because the Noonans got the door, you know, a lot of the Noonans boys were coming in there. And it just, you know, you had like Moss Side coming in there. Then all of a sudden you had Cheetah Mill going in there. You had three major factions in one place.
Yeah.
And at the time it felt massive, the club, but it really wasn't that big.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Right. So, and then someone would step on someone's trainers, and, you know, the next thing you know, you got a fight kicking off somewhere, and it was the vibe totally died. But it died from moving over, first of all, from ease to coke.
Yeah.
You know, as the preferred drug of choice, basically, you know, for people.
You know, like just listening to it then, like the Ecstasy was perfect for house music.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't think of another scene of music that a drug's gone so well with, but coke just makes people arrogant, doesn't it? It's like,
yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you know the history of like pills and things like that, they were like from the 60s, and were used for sex parties.
Yeah.
You know, and things like the hippies and things, you know, they were the first people to really, you know, use ecstasy, MDMA, as a drug of choice, and, you know, party on it, but have crazy sex parties apparently in America.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's been around for a while.
What other clubs did you go? Like you mentioned the gallery before. Was that? I'm releasing a video today with Anif, and I was surprised that house music was being played in there quite early on.
Yeah, I mean, when I went there, I never went to the house nights, but I did go to the R&B nights.
Yeah.
And it was just like a vibe. It was the only place that I knew of in Manchester at that time that played R&B music, right? And it was designed for black people.
Yeah.
You know, because there was nowhere else for us. So the gallery would get busy. And you can ask anyone who went to the gallery at the time, right? And they'll say this is true. You got in there, and there was a dance floor in the middle of the club, right? Like a rectangle-shaped dance floor. And people used to stand around it, right? And wouldn't dance.
Yeah.
Until it got to about 12 o'clock. And then all of a sudden, some girls would drift onto the dance floor, right? And things like that. And then all of a sudden, the dance floor would get busy. So from about maybe 11, half 11, the dance floor would be empty. Yeah. And after that, it would start getting busy, do you know what I mean? And but black people were too cool. And we don't turn up half of the time, people won't turn up to a club till 11:30, 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
But the place used to shut at 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
So you don't literally be getting 2 hours of the club, you know, and then have to go to a blues or something like that, which there were plenty of at the time anyway. So,
Do you know, I couldn't believe when I moved to Leeds as a student, I think in about 93, and I'd never really, I went to Nottingham a few times clubbing, but nowhere else really outside of Manchester. And then I couldn't believe we went to a place, the Orbit, I think it's in Morley, and I think Sven Vath might have been playing it, and it was trance. But people were completely out of the brains at 8 o'clock in the evening. It's like, because I'm used to like you say, then people like go to the club later on, and people go to the club early.
different city, different vibe.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
we used to go to Leeds. We used to go to sort of when Hacienda kind of lost its shine, and we've been going there for 5 years or so, sort of early 90s, 92, 93. I think it's around then. We started moving out, you know, we started going to other places, and we'd go to like back to basic in Leeds,
Yeah,
you know.
brilliant.
We used to started going to Cream after that in Liverpool, you know, and we used to love it because we used to smoke weed and they had an outside section, you know, and they covered it up later on. But the early days in Cream, there was a massive, big outdoor part of the club.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So we just pop out there, smoke a joint, and then go back in.
Yeah.
And it was cool. You never got any grief. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in Hacienda, if you're smoking a weed, you'll have to go into the middle of the dance floor, smoke a spliff, or go to the back of the stage.
Yeah, that's right.
You know.
Yeah. Or you could go in the DJ's box sometimes.
Yeah. I used to go in there because Sasha would be in there, and like Sasha would be absolutely twisted, and like go in there and go, can I skin up? Yeah, come in, blah, 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 blah. Roll me one. I was like, you don't smoke weed, just roll one, leave it there for us. So I used to just roll one, put it on the side for him, and then get off. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, good times. I mean, social media these days makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
I love it because there's loads of people that, you know, I've known for 30 years, 40 years. You know, I can keep in contact with them because we've all scattered, you know, to people that live in different countries. Now, one of my best mates, my boy George, he lives in South Africa in Durban, you know, but he's on WhatsApp, it's on Facebook, so, you know, we can speak every day if you want to.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, social media has definitely tightened the circle up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I remember from the Hacienda days, there were people like, there was my mate Victoria and Harrod, we had Claudia, Caroline, Katie, Dominic, me, Martin, George, Orville, you know, we all used to meet up and we had the first cubicle and that was our cubicle. That was our spot. That's where we hung out.
Yeah.
You know, if anyone was in there, you know, we would just all just pile in there and they'd eventually just move out.
Yeah.
There was never any attitude, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you know, I think just the amount of us, and there was more, you know.
Yeah.
And we'd all congregate there, leave our drinks there, hit the dance floor. If you didn't like the song, come back, be there, right near the bar.
Yeah.
Perfect spot.
Yeah.
Underneath the DJ box.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was good.
Do you know the thing I love about it as well is that, like, it was impossible to, like you say, it's been easier to get people in the fort because you ask someone and they know someone who knows someone.
Yeah.
So it was like a small community. But these people who I would have been in the same clubs, probably stood at the bar with them, but never met or spoke to them. And I feel like now the scene was that powerful that even like 30, 40 years later, I'm still making friends because of it.
Well, it's like, you know, there are so many people that went, right, over a period of time. It's hundreds and, you know, and thousands of people that pass through those doors. And there are people today, I wonder what happened to them. You know, there's a girl called Tanya, she was like, I think she was Malaysian or something like that. She was like a European Asian mix. And she disappeared off the scene. And she was such a nice girl. And I often wonder what happened to her. You know what I mean? Things like that. So there's always people that, you know, that were there and all of a sudden they've gone. And then through social media, you know, they'll pop back into your life again.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah. But the Hacienda, it's iconic. And what gets me now is like you've got like Hooky, who's got the trade. He owns the brand, the Hacienda brand.
Yeah.
So he'll do all the Hacienda classicals and things like that, you know, and keeping that name alive basically because it's iconic to Manchester.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so anyone that, you know, knew the night scene in that time knew the Hacienda.
Yeah.
Because it was, I think it was voted like best club in the world.
Yeah.
You know, for a couple of years. You know, I think it was Mix Mag or one of those magazines that voted it the best club in the world for like 2 years on the bounce.
And I don't think like, because people will say, oh, why are you always doing videos on the Hacienda? But I don't think that there's any other club in the history of Manchester that has stimulated so much debate and conversation. So there might have been like, there would have been periods where other clubs were better, just because things evolved, didn't they?
Yeah.
But I don't think there's ever been a club in Manchester that gets talked about as much as that.
Well, you know, it's even, I'll be in work or, you know, out and about, and there'll be people who are, you know, in their mid-30s or early 40s, and they'll go, oh, yeah, I used to go to the Hacienda, and I used to go, you weren't old enough to go to the Hacienda. I never knew you in the Hacienda. I mean, it's impossible to know everyone, you know, but, you know. You go, how old are you? Then I'm 40. Okay, well, that means I'm 16 years older than me, so you must have been about 4. You know, because I was like 17 the first time. Not the first time I went in Hacienda, I was 16, and then it was a year later when I went back again. And Martin said, "You need to come to the Hacienda. This music's amazing." You know, so yeah, so 17. So and then we went and stayed going there. That was probably late 86, 87, and then I think we stopped going probably 92, no, 94, 93, 94. I think it started to, you know, I think we stopped going regularly about 92. And then we would go other places. But we still go there every now and again. Do you know what I mean? We do a Wednesday night at Flesh.
Yeah,
which was a gay night. Well.
Yeah,
we were talking about earlier on in the week.
But there was no like when you said before about the violence and I was saying it felt dangerous. That didn't have that. It felt safe at Flesh.
Because you know, again, the gangsters didn't want to go down there. You know, and then you had they built up the gay village on Canal Street. Right, and so once the Hacienda died, then all of a sudden there was all these bars on Canal Street, like Prague 5 and Berlin's and places like that, and Machinair, which they built, which was like a 3-story. There was a bar on the first floor, and then Mash on the second, which was more burgers and sort of thing, and then Air on the third floor, which was like a 5-star restaurant sort of thing. It was all white. It was all white.
Forgot about it.
You know, so there was always, you know, trendy, you know, bars and really good places to go. But because Manchester, again, is quite small, when a new place opened, and it was, you know, it was very fashionable, very, you know, they were trying to get access to a certain market, everyone would go there. You know, so then all the faces used to be there again. You know, and it was definitely a trip. You know, because I was a little bit older then. You know, so when you're younger, you're a bit of a novice, and you know, you're just starting off your club life really. And then all of a sudden, when you're getting a little bit older, you're a little bit more seasoned. And everyone knows you, and all the doormen know you. You know, they know you're no trouble. You know, half the time, half the reasons why I used to get in places without having to queue up and not having to pay a lot of time was because I knew a lot of faces from Salford. I knew a lot of faces from Cheetham. I knew a lot of faces from my side. So if there was any sort of vibe, I could, you know, maybe if I was there, I could just calm it down, you know, and go, we don't want this. We're all going to get kicked out, right? And then the next week when we come, they're not going to want to let us in. You'll be like, let them try and stop us. I'm like, yeah, but we don't want that. We don't want to have to fight the doorman to get in.
Yeah.
So, you know, let's buy each other a drink and let's just chill out.
Yeah.
You know, and the doorman used to see that and like, so they go, yeah, Coddy's all right, let him in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He'll keep the peace.
Yeah.
Like I'll go to a club with some of my mates sometimes, some faces, and we walk up to the door and then someone turns around to me, what are you smiling for? I go, what do you mean? Stop smiling. We're going into the place. And I was like, what am I supposed to be trying to intimidate them? I said, you do your face, I'll do mine. You know,
Wow.
seriously, you know, because like that, walking in like, ugh.
Yeah.
I was like, nah, that's not me. You know, if I go in there trying to do that, then just go, you in a bad mood, Coddy? What's up? Come over here, have a chat with us. You know, you'd be one of those. So yeah, no, that wasn't me. I was always kind of like happy, chilled out guy, you know. So yeah.
I think we're getting to near half an hour. I was just thinking when you were saying that, you were thinking, I wonder what such and such is up to now. Then people will be, I bet there'd be a lot of people out there thinking, oh, I wonder what happened to Coddy. I've not seen him.
Yeah, maybe, you know.
This is what happened to him.
Oh my God. Yeah. You know, no dreads. Dreads are gone, long gone, you know. But yeah, just a little bit older, a little bit wiser.
Yeah.
You know, those party days are definitely behind me.
Yeah, same.
Give me a good restaurant and a bar and I'm happy.
And an early night from
Oh, jeez.
That's my luxury.
Honestly, so there were times where we could go out at like 5, 6 in the afternoon and start. This was rare, but we'd go out early, get some food, and then go to a bar, and then would before dry bar was open, we used to go to cheerleaders. We'd actually sometimes meet up on my mate and Harrod's flat, which was in Chepstow House.
Yeah.
Then go to cheerleaders, get a burger, right, and then go into the Hacienda, which was just round the corner. And cheerleaders was like this American-style burger bar,
Yeah.
right, which was just across the canal, from the Hacienda. So the back of the where the cubicles are. Yeah. So do you know like where the bar is, the bar?
Yeah.
And then you had the cubicles. In between there was a set of stairs that were up to the DJ box, right?
Yeah.
But then there was a door there.
Yeah.
And that led out to the canal.
Yeah.
And then you go out there and you can see cheerleaders from the bar.
Yeah.
From the back of the door.
Yeah.
I remember one time when someone was selling some gear in the Hacienda. And the Newlands caught them. And Damien caught them. And like had some words with him, took the gear off him, said no more of that. So anyway, the guy came back, I think it was a couple of weeks later, caught him again, took him out the back door, threw him in the canal.
Did I?
Just threw him in the canal. And it was like so funny, you know. We're like, my mates were like ringing up, going, where are you? And it's like, Damien just threw me in the canal. It's like, oh shit, man. Okay, you know, just be careful. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like Damien was not to be crossed at the time. Yeah. You know, so if you were a little knob and you were out there trying to, you know, sell drugs in there, even though a lot of people were high, you know, he would deal with it quite swiftly. He would take your drugs and kick you out. Yeah. And then he'd probably give them to his mates to sell.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
You know, no doubt. Jesus.
So I always try and end them with pick a favourite track. I know it's hard to do. Think of a track that takes you back to the Hacienda. And I was thinking of this before because I remember that I think you lent Marvin a 12-inch. It might have been Take Some Time Out, Alan Jarvis.
Do you know what? It was like... I used to love Grooves in the Heart because it wasn't really a house track, but it was a Hacienda tune.
Yeah.
You know? And it was just one of those tunes which just used to just get me. But there was others. I mean, that's not even an iconic track. Oh, God, I'm so bad with names and tracks. But there were so many. You know, my partner, Lisa, she is like, if you just say... If a track comes on the range, she just pops the name off like that. And I'm like, God, how do you do that?
Yeah.
I'm so dyslexic. I can't remember people's names, Paul. Never mind her favourite track. I could pull one up on my phone and go, yeah, that's a killer tune. You know, because...
Grooves in the Heart, though. It's like, I was chatting to Russ from Spidding the other day, and one of his favourite tracks that reminds me of Hacienda is Black Box, Ride on Time. So people get sniffy about chart music
Yeah.
or big, but sometimes Grooves in the Heart was an amazing track, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the, but remember, a lot of songs. I mean, you had a lot of house songs that went into the charts.
Yeah.
Frankie Knuckles was in the charts.
Yeah.
Back in the early days.
Yeah.
But those records were out a year.
Yeah.
Underground before they hit the charts.
Yeah.
Before they became available to the general public.
I met her,
Did you seriously?
Yeah, she was in Paradise Factory. She played at Paradise Factory. It was £3.
Yeah.
And there was a story behind it. I think she was playing. Probably at the Apollo in Manchester, and then Pete Dalton messaged their manager and said, "Well, would you do the Paradise Factory the night before?" And then she did.
Yeah.
So she did. She did a PA, and then I met her after I got talking to her about Roy Ayers for some reason, and she said that he was being a bit awkward about her sampling one of his tracks. But I wish if you had camera phones, that'd be just like the best.
Oh, seriously. So talking about favourite tracks, Your Love. Your Love. That was such, I mean, you hear certain tracks and they just take you right back to a place in time, and bring back so many memories, and you just start smiling, of happy times. So yeah, Your Love was a classic for me.
So I've just got to stop recording now.
Okay.
That's meant.
No problem. Listen, people, hope you enjoy the interview.